Okay, welcome. I'd like to call this October 23rd, 2017 council meeting to order. If you please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Coin.
Here.
Hilberg.
Here.
Polisar.
Here.
Lamb.
Here.
Rose.
Here.
Shields.
Here.
Simpson.
Here.
Reading of the minutes.
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields.
I move that the minutes from the regular meeting of October 10th, 2017, as prepared and submitted by the clerk, be approved.
Second.
Any discussion on the approval of the minutes? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Hilberg.
Yes.
Polisar.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Reports of standing committees. The Finance Committee met prior to this council meeting, talked about several items, which will be on the agenda on the next council meeting. Our next council meeting, of course, is 3 weeks from today since we have an odd Monday. Health, Safety, and Sanitation Committee, Mr. Colzar.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have no meeting scheduled. I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Public Properties Committee, Mr. Shields.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled and no report this evening.
Special Legislation Committee, Mr. Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled and nothing to report.
Sidewalks and Streets and Sidewalks Committee, Mr. Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled, nothing to report.
Water and Utilities Committee, Mr. Hilberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled, nothing to report.
And Emerging Technologies Committee, Mr. Rose.
Thank you, Mr. President. No meeting scheduled and nothing to report.
Thank you. Requests for council action. We have a few for finance. We have 17190 budget amendments, 17191 increase PO 2017-122 for Pradco for the police department, 17192 2018 membership renewal for Main Street Medina, 17193 amending salaries and benefits code sick leave donation program, and 17194 fair market value estimates for Guilford Bridge rehab. Reports of municipal officers. Mayor Hamwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. For the public's benefit, Halloween this year for the City of Medina, Medina Township, and Montville Township will be Tuesday, October 31st from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. in each of the 3 jurisdictions. And then additionally, I spoke with Chief Arbogast from Medina Township PD. They're having from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Hot dogs, chips, and games at the Township Fire Department at Fenn Road, just west of Pearl Road, and the public is invited to that as well. I'd like to thank Councilman Jim Shields and Law Director Greg Huber for joining me this past Friday on an interview panel for our police chief finalists, Sergeant Ed Kinney, Sergeant Brett McNabb, and Sergeant Scott Markham. 3 excellent candidates, and I will be making a conditional job offer to my selection no later than October 26th, which will then be subject to council's confirmation at your next meeting, November 13th. I'd also like to take the time to thank Acting Chief Dave Burke-Bickler for his leadership in overseeing the police department for the past approximately 11 months as we've worked through this process. The lieutenant's done an excellent job, and I'm very appreciative and thankful for his efforts and commitment to the City of Medina. The state of the city that was presented to Medina Chamber is still on the city website. If anybody hasn't had a chance to see it and is interested, it's on the city website, www.medinoh.org. And I'd also like to thank Miles and Jared for taping that with the high-quality cameras that we have. And then last but not least, Root Candle is the sponsor, again, for the Candlelight Walk. The events include tree and downtown lighting at 7 p.m. on Friday, November 17th, the Holiday Parade of Lights starting at Medina High School, Saturday, November 18th at 5:30, and ends at Medina Square delivering Santa and Mrs. Claus. And then weather permitting, there are also planned to be fireworks. It will take us a little bit of time after the parade is over to clear the safe zone for the fireworks of both pedestrians and vehicles, but then the fireworks will commence shortly thereafter, so likely between 6:30 and 7 o'clock. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Durham, Director of Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's a couple things later on the agenda that originated with finance, and I'll address those when we get there.
Thank you, Mr. Huber, Law Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Lieutenant Brooke Beckler, Police Department.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to bring to council's attention the Citizen Police Academy and our special police unit. This past weekend, we had 3 major events happen on the square, and then with Halloween coming up, and without these volunteers' time and energy that they commit to us, we couldn't do what we do. So I want to make you all aware and thank each of them.
Thank you. Mr. Mendel, Planning and Community Development Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report this evening.
Thank you. Mr. Worley, Parks and Recreation Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
Thank you. Mr. Gladish, Building Official.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no report.
This must be acting chief today.
Oh, you are? Mr. Crumley, the Acting Fire Chief.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have no report at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Patton, City Engineer.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have 2 active bridge projects going on right now. One is in North Harmony and one is in West Smith. The roads are closed at those locations. I just want to report both those projects are on schedule. We do expect to reopen each of those roads sometime in mid-November. Secondly, our annual sidewalk repair program is underway. Our contractor, in the past week to 10 days, started repairing. I think we have about 180 different locations, somewhere along those lines. They expect to be done in about 2 to 3 weeks. We've had numerous folks call inquiring about whether our contractor could actually do more sidewalk than we require, and they certainly can, but give us a call if you have any questions. We'd be glad to guide you through that process. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Piccoli, Service Director.
Thank you, Mr. President. Our LEAF program is moving forward, updated daily on the website. The Mayor's Assistant is updating that map. You can find it at www.medinaoh.org. It's on the front page, and we think it'll serve the public well. We appreciate the public's patience. Rake your leaves out to the curb, and we will be there to pick them up. Sanitation Department is doing an excellent job with the yard waste program. We intend on running that program through the end of November. We'll have updates with regard to the quantities at the end of the season. Thank you.
Thank you. Confirmation of council appointments. We have one for the Strategic Plan Advisory Committee, Jim Gerspacher, for a term expiring 12/31/18.
Move to confirm council appointment.
Second?
Discussion on the council appointment. We recently had a Strategic Plan Advisory Committee a week ago this Monday, or today, a week ago today. And we had one vacancy on the committee, and Mr. Gerspacher was there, and so we appointed him as far as that. And so we need council's approval to confirm that. Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll on council's confirmation of council's appointment?
Colasar.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hilberg.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Notices, communications, and petitions. There are none. Unfinished business. There's none. Introduction of visitors. Members of the public will be permitted the opportunity to speak on any issue or concern which pertains to the city during the portion of the council agenda devoted to introduction of visitors. All comments shall be directed to the chair, and a reasonable time limit of approximately 5 minutes will be imposed. If there's a group, please appoint a spokesperson. Speakers should approach the front right microphone and state their name and address so it can be entered into the minutes. Members of the public will be afforded the opportunity to comment on other portions of the meeting as determined by the chair or by a vote of the majority of council members present. Is there anybody that wishes to address council at this time? Okay, introduction and consideration of ordinances and resolutions. We have ordinance 15417, an ordinance authorizing the payment of $31,000 to Your Construction for private home rehabilitation at 914 Quincy Court, Medina, as part of the fiscal year 2016 CHIP grant program.
Move to approve.
Second?
Discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields?
the emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it at this time.
My second includes adding the emergency clause?
Discussion on the emergency clause and the ordinance. Mr. Mendel.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This is a project 914 Quincy Court here in the city of Medina under our private home rehabilitation program as part of the CHIP grant program. $31,000. This would do a lot of improvements to an existing home here in the city for our LMI resident. We request the emergency clause so that when the when the project is ready to be paid, it can be paid to the applicant, to the contractor as soon as possible, due to the fact that, you know, the process requires that the contractor put up the money first to do the project, and then is reimbursed after it's been approved, after the construction has been approved. The emergency clause would allow the payment to the contractor sooner, so that they can continue to bid on CHIP projects here in the city and with the city of Brunswick. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comment on the emergency clause and/or the ordinance? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause?
Rose?
Yes.
Shields?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Coin?
Yes.
Hilberg?
Yes.
Colasar?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Lamb?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Shields?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Coin?
Yes.
Hilberg?
Yes.
Colasar?
Yes.
Ordinance 154-17 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 155-17, an ordinance amending ordinance number 107-17 passed July 10th, 2017, authorizing the payment to CB Hawk Construction Company for a private home rehabilitation project at 540 Ridge Drive as part of the fiscal year 2016 CHIP grant program.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields?
the emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause in the ordinance. Mr. Mendel?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This is also for a property here in the city of Medina. It's to increase, change order to increase the amount of the project by $3,100 to a total of $37,735. We would also request the emergency clause is being requested for the same reason as the last one, to help expedite payment to the contractor, to encourage rebidding on future CDBG CHIP program projects, which directly benefit our low moderate income residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the emergency clause and/or the ordinance? Clerk, please call the roll of adoption of the emergency clause.
Hilberg?
Yes.
Colasar?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Shields?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Coin?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Coin?
Yes.
Hilberg?
Yes.
Colasar?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Shields?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Ordinance 156-17 passes 7-0.
That was 155.
I'm sorry, 155.
Ordinance 156-17, an ordinance amending ordinance number 97-17 passed June 6, 2017, authorizing the payment to CB Hawk Construction Co. for the private home rehabilitation project at 4144 St. James Drive as part of the fiscal year 16 CHIP grant program.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields?
emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause and ordinance. Mr. Mendel?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This is also another change order of $320 to the existing project. This is for a property in the city of Brunswick. Total contract amount with this increase would be $25,365. Emergency clause is being requested so that the contractor can begin the job as soon as possible and then be paid in a timely manner when it's completed and approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause.
Simpson?
Yes.
Coin?
Yes.
Hilberg?
Yes.
Colasar?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Shields?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Shields?
Yes.
Simpson?
Yes.
Coin?
Yes.
Hilberg?
Yes.
Colasar?
Yes.
Lamb?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Ordinance 156-17 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 157-17, an ordinance amending ordinance number 105-17, passed July 10th, 2017, authorizing the payment to CB Hawk Construction Co. for private home rehabilitation project at 409 East North Street as part of the fiscal year 16 CHIP grant program.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields?
the emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the ordinance and the emergency clause. Mr. Mendel?
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This is a change order to an existing project of $800. That's the amount of the change order, which would take the total contract amount to $30,050. This is for a property at 409 East North Street, which is here in the city of Medina. The emergency clause is being requested to be able to pay the contractor in a timely manner. Expediting the payment to the contractor would continue to help with their participation with the CHIP programs, which benefit our low, moderate income residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Will the clerk please call the roll on the emergency clause?
Lamb,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hilberg.
Yes.
Colasar.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Any further discussion on the ordinance? Clerk, please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance.
Colasar.
Yes.
Lamb,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hilberg.
Yes.
Ordinance 157-17 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 15817, an ordinance amending section 3105 of the Salaries and Benefits Code of the City of Medina, Ohio, relative to the intensive supervision probation employees for the municipal court.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields?
the emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause and/or the ordinance. Mr. Durham?
Thank you, Mr. President. This came from the court, but this is the grant that they get every year. It's the emergency clause because it's retroactive to July 1st.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comment on the emergency clause or the ordinance? Clerk, please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance.
Shields.
Yes. Or,
Oh, on the emergency clause, I'm sorry.
Simpson.
Getting ahead of myself.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hilberg.
Yes.
Colasar.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, now will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance?
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hilberg.
Yes.
Colasar.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Ordinance 158-17 passes 7-0.
Resolution 15917, a resolution accepting the amounts and rates as determined by the Budget Commission, authorizing the necessary tax levies and certifying them to the county auditor.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. President,
Mr. Shields?
the emergency clause has been requested. I move to add it at this time.
My second includes the emergency clause.
Discussion on the emergency clause and the resolution. Mr. Durham?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is required by state law. It's part of the budget process. We have to do this in order to get the property tax levies. The emergency clause is requested because we received this in October, and it has to be returned by the end of October.
That's quick. The state's good. Any further discussion or comment on the emergency clause and/or the resolution? Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the emergency clause?
Coin.
Yes.
Hilberg.
Yes.
Colasar.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0.
Will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the resolution?
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hilberg.
Yes.
Colasar.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Resolution 159-17 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 16017, an ordinance amending section 13301 of the codified ordinances of the City of Medina, Ohio, relative to association memberships.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Durham?
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the seventh item on the agenda and the first one that does not require the emergency clause. We are adding the Ohio Association of Public Treasurers as an organization that we can join. They provide some trainings that we'd like to be able to attend.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance.
Hilberg.
Yes.
Colasar.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Ordinance 160-17 passes 7-0.
Ordinance 16117, an ordinance amending ordinance number 16716, passed December 12th, 2016, amendments to the 2017 budget.
Move to approve.
Second.
Discussion. Mr. Durham?
Thank you, Mr. President. There's only one tonight. It's a pass-through of a donation.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll on the adoption of the ordinance.
Colasar.
Yes.
Lamb.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Hilberg.
Yes.
Ordinance 161-17 passes 7-0.
Council comments.
Mr. President?
Mr. Rose?
Thank you, sir. Just like to remind everybody that November 11th is Election Day. Exercise your constitutional right to go out and vote.
7th.
November 7th, excuse me, what did I say? Okay, and Veterans Day is the 11th. That's I've got my notes here. Veterans Day is the 11th, and honor those veterans who are still here. Remember, it's because of their sacrifices that we're allowed to do what we do here, and nobody else. Okay, and I don't know if you notice, I'm wearing a pink tie, pink ribbon here. Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It's something that my family has lived through and is living through, and I'd like to see everybody out there and supporting it however they can. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further council comments?
Mr. President,
Mr. Colzar?
brief comment. Chief Burke Backlar, thank you for the transition and you being in charge for the last 11 months. It was a smooth transition. I appreciate the way you've held yourself here in this and being involved and being a leader of our police department. I'm very sorry you didn't make the final cut. I think you should have, but I'm not a part of that process. But just the way you've held yourself and the leadership that you showed on behalf of Ward 3, I just want to say thank you. We appreciate it.
Any further council comments?
Mr. President?
Mr. Simpson?
I'd like to echo what Mark said to Lieutenant Burkbeckler. As you well know, me personally, it's been an honor working with you all these years, and the position that you've held for the last 11 months, you excelled at that, which is not a surprise. So I'm glad you're still going to be with us, and in a position of leadership and still in the department, and I'm grateful for that. For the members that are running for re-election for council and administration, Mayor Hanwell, Mr. Durham, Mr. Rose, Mr. Colasar, Mr. Hillerberg, good luck on the election. I have appreciated working with you, and I hope we can continue to work together after the election. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other additional council comments? Hearing none, the meeting's adjourned.